Lindsay.
Lindsay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lindsay. Lindsay was going to try to come.
Cool. Cool. Man, I love those sandwiches, but I feel like I got a seed in my tooth somewhere. Guaranteed. All right, let's get this out of the way. These little bars is the one thing I got to figure out how to like make these guys kind of like go away. They're driving me crazy because there's like 3 of them when they pop up and they detract from the overall deal. But I want to make sure we start on time and end on time. This one I'm going to try and make a little bit shorter. Ooh, I better double check and make sure my volume's good because then that will foil the whole thing. Oh yeah, actually I'm a little hot. Jeepers creepers. Okay, let's kick that one down a little bit. Oh, it's got to be this one. Check. Check 1, 2, test. Hey, our transcription's working. Oh, this is fantastic. Okay. Don't let me start yelling, otherwise I'll blow the eardrums out if somebody's. Oh. You might have to forget the Wi-Fi and then reconnect, but I'll double check and make sure here. City of Gregory, City Hall, clicky clack. Settings. Check. Come on. Wi-Fi. Boom. Yep. All lowercase, no spaces. City of Gregory. And then that machine is going to be capable of 2.4 and 5, so that shouldn't be it. Sometimes band steering will cause, I don't know, sometimes there's firmware in some of these laptops that hate band steering, which is basically my access point trying to push you one way or the other. But so there's an option in most of these machines where you can, if it remembers the password from a previous engagement, like when you plugged it in, you can right click on it and forget that network from your machine and then reconnect back to it. There's the starting bell. All right. Kick this thing on so we got some B-roll. All right, we're rolling. Okay, so I am going to kick us off here. Let's get that out of the way. We're definitely going to not want to show the public that. Let's see here. So I'm going to kick this off. That's the wrong. That was the last one. Let's go ahead. I'm going to minimize. We're going to present. Not going to autoplay. Okay, so the goal of today, let's see, let's get that over here. The goal of today is I want to be able to do a simple primer on AI. I'm calling it AI 101, right? And to start off, to kick us off, ultimately what I'm looking for is I want to kind of get some feedback from you guys right off the bat. How familiar are we with AI? Have we heard about it in the news at the very least? Yeah, okay. Have we interacted with it before? Yay?
We actually,
Okay.
because we started a website for our lodge.
Yep.
And this is us.
Yeah.
And then rewrote it and it moved better.
Yeah. So you used AI to rewrite kind of the written about us page on your website to kind of polish it up, almost as a literary second set of eyes,
Yeah.
right? Yep. Its strong suit is that by far. Any other use cases that anyone has used it for? Yeah, oh, jeepers, yeah. 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 Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Did a fairly decent job at it. Yep. Awesome. Awesome. Yep. Right. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Sure. Yeah, there you go. I'm always amazed at how much more business focused and polished it makes my communication, because I will do it, it actually allows me to bang out the rough draft faster and in a rougher fashion, but still have the general gist of what I'm looking for. Hey, Lindsay. And then effectively it will take that and repolish the whole thing to the point where it makes me so much kinder and nicer, and then just better all the way around. It takes some of the teeth out, I know, and it almost feels like it takes some of the soul of the writing out a little bit. Have you guys, it, it doesn't have to. Mhm. Yeah. Yep, context, stuff like that. You bet. Okay. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, and ultimately, I'm gonna try and speak. I don't want to say I want to speak to the most common denominator across the group. I don't want to I don't want to speak to the expert, and I don't want to speak to the folks that are just getting started of it and still kind of scared with it. Ultimately, what I'm looking at is I'm trying to hit dead center of the group, and if you have questions, make sure you stop me. If you have questions, either someone else at the table has that same question, they're just not willing to voice it, or someone online in the future, because we're recording this. And ultimately, what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to chop this up into little bitty snippets, and I'm going to use it for my marketing. But two, if you guys want to do the same thing, you can host this on your own website, like on the Chambers for like an educational piece. Now, this content is really dynamic and fresh, so this is probably going to stay relevant for maybe another 4 or 5 months before all the numbers change and all the names probably change and stuff like that. I mean, OpenAI and ChatGPT will still be around, but this is the fastest moving piece of technology I have ever seen. I've been doing this for 17 years. It's and two, I want to be able to speak a little bit to the impact that it's having now and that we're seeing, but two, where I think it's going to go. Anyway, we'll dive into all that. Okay, everybody good? Did we get connected to Wi-Fi at all? Okay, 10-4, bummer deal. By the way, something's going to break either in the presentation or in my demonstration. So let's be looking for the Easter egg, because this happens every time. Okay. All right. So we're going to kick on here. Thank you for cooking. Thank you for putting this on. This is fantastic. Love this. This is so much fun. Okay, next up, I'm going to present this again at the end of it. I need feedback so that I can get better at presenting. No one gets better in a vacuum, and so I need input back. If you would be willing to do that, so you don't have to take notes on this. You don't have to scan the QR code, but I will send this out. This will be at the very end. Also, if you want these slides, or if you want a link to the recording of this for later on down the road, how you're going to get it is you're going to plug in the feedback, and then you're going to throw your email in here, and I'm just going to send it to you. Sound good? Okay. So the incentive is in I get to steal your information, and then I'll gift you back with whatever you want. Okay. All right. And then the other thing is if you would be willing to do this, this is our Google feedback form. This is the Google My Business page so when you type in Google, like technology people near me, Cybertech Systems shows up, and then the stars related with it, and then the feedback that our customers have given us. This is really helpful. We actually just we did another round of interviews for our latest intern, and the top two actually referenced this. They said they had some other offers in the Twin Cities and Omaha and wherever else. They actually came to us based off of the customer reviews. which was really interesting. I had never thought about that, but it was so validating. Really, really cool. So, sure. And the great thing about Google is that a username is attached to the review. Now, oftentimes on other platforms, they're anonymous. So you're always like, well, how much of this was just bought and paid for, right? That's kind of the nice thing is on the reviews, you can actually click on the username and see how much history has the user done. Have they reviewed a food place? Have they done a whatever else, So that's a good way to tell. So here's some of that. I'm on we have to present on the right slideshow, guys. See, I tell you what, it's the same thing. Okay, so getting into it, key terms. I do need to make sure, I'm gonna have to keep track of if somebody is waiting in the lobby. I'm just gonna check that really quick. And I don't think so. Okay. So some key terms that we need to cover so that we can kind of have a dialogue on the language. Everything in technology is acronyms, right? And so, but those acronyms are tied back to words, right? So AI, artificial intelligence, that one's probably a pretty common one. ML, machine learning. This is basically the structured way that we teach machines using kind of this repository of knowledge. And it very much is utilizing the scientific method, if you will, to ingest data and teach these software constructs to learn. That's really what it is. It's just the platform or the way that we're teaching it, okay? A large language model. Has anybody heard of an LLM, large language model? Okay, so this would be like, what's a great analogy? This would be the output, the deliverable, the end product after we teach a machine. And basically, the best analogy I have for you, these large language models is in your brain, you have a lot of brain cells, right? Or we should. Some of our neighbors, we kind of aren't quite sure. But we have these different brain cells, and then they are connected via these little highways called synaptic gaps, right? And so there's neurons that are firing between all these things, and there's dendrites, and there's all kinds of stuff. It's been a while since I was in Ms. Schmitz's class, but that's what I remember, right? So at the end of the day, how all of these brain cells get connected and tied together, it is very similar to the large language model. And the best way that I can describe this, the best analogy I can give you, these are probability machines. These AI models are probability machines. And it's really, really interesting. Has anybody seen someone that can count cards or plays poker really well? They're always going through probability in their head. Numbers, what's the probability of hitting 21 with the amount of pointers that's left in the deck and this whole thing? Effectively, what a large language model and what these AI models are doing is after they've been trained on a large amount of data, on a large amount of communication, they will begin to associate the word bark with the word dog. High probability that they are connected and correlated. And effectively what these are is you will give it a sentence, it will start with a word, that's the most probable word to start with, and then it will find the next most probable word to follow after that word, and then that word, and then that word. And it's basically setting up dominoes, one after another based off of the previous word. Insanity that we can get the output that we have right now based off of, that's the algorithm. And effectively what the large language model is it is the trained, structured interconnectedness, the learned probability of all of those after we've trained an AI to connect and associate words. Even better. Yeah.
You're using that for
Yes.
the next one.
So
What happens when you have those not very intelligent people making the conversations or shortening the language, and then the predictive text gets thrown off from what it should? I mean, like, is that?
Yeah,
where we're
so
at right now in life with the way people
Mhm.
converse.
Well, and it's kind of similar in a lot of ways, like the bad data in, bad data out, right? Garbage in, garbage out. The crazy thing is most of the AI models that are in existence today have not just been trained on text messages. They've been trained on Encyclopedia Britannica. Um, they've been trained on, for instance, when ChatGPT 2.5 came out, one of the things that a few of the engineers had stated that it was trained on basically all written communication of humankind's history that had ever been input into the internet up to 2017. Now, there's a lot of smart stuff out there. There's a lot of scientific papers. There's a lot of whatever else. There's also a lot of Yelp reviews, right? And Reddit discourse and whatever else. So good and the bad. In this case, I would say volume is actually helping you, not hurting, not hindering you. The other thing too is as they're making these models, there's kind of people putting bumper guards and trying to nudge and push and train on the right data. But anyway, okay, I get to talking too much, guys. This is no good. We got to stay 5,000 foot overview. Okay, so a prompt is another key term that we need to know about. That is simply the question that you're going to ask the model, okay? And there are simple prompts, which would be like a single sentence. I need some help understanding this, or create a social media post about this key topic, right? Single sentence. Now, at its base core, that's pretty much how we're using it right now. There is an entire job that sprung up about 2 years ago called prompt engineering. And it is the way that we ask questions in a structured scientific manner to get a result back and then see the delta or see the differences from one question to the next. And there's a lot of really smart people that are incredibly interested in this space. We're going to show off a couple ways to some tips and tricks on how to do this better, because truly, probably the phrase of the day would be garbage in, garbage out. And if it feels like AI isn't giving you what you want, you need to go back to the source and go, what are the questions I'm giving it? Because truly, um, I think we can all agree there is such things as a dumb question, right? I can sharpen my own questions. Sometimes half the battle is how do I sharpen the question that I'm giving it so I can get something back that's really refined and really distilled. Okay. And then, yeah, another great example of this, let me minimize this, is like a trial attorney and an expert witness. So a trial attorney is going to lead an expert witness down a series of questions that are kind of pre-programmed, very structured, and it's going to get expected responses back. You can set your questions in a manner that will achieve a similar output almost every single time. And that's where we want to go as small business. If we want the same output, I think of like when I order a Big Mac at McDonald's, I want the same Big Mac. I don't want 30% more pickles on this one and no mustard on this one, right? Actually, it's the special sauce. We all, yeah. You went there with me. At the end of the day, though, that's the thing is like if we as small business owners are going to start using this product, this technology more, we need to make sure that we're achieving an output that's really similar, right? And so that all comes down to prompts. All right. Let's move on. Okay, I promise we're going to get out of the acronyms and the languages, but for me to be able to have a lot of meaning and a lot of depth with this, and so that you can see how wide this river is, and before we start going and exploring depth, there's going to be like this and maybe one more, okay? And then otherwise, we're just going to get into examples and start cruising through, okay? So models. These would be like the large language models that we were just talking about, okay? And in some cases, like ChatGPT and OpenAI, they had been working on theirs for almost 6-7 years. But when there is Have you ever heard of the phrase "we are standing on the shoulders of giants," like on of those that came before us? The company in the lower right-hand corner, DeepSeek, they trained theirs in a matter of months based off of the data of ChatGPT. Now, granted, they're an AI and they can just steal copyright and it doesn't really matter, right? They can't, no one can bring them to court effectively. ChatGPT has spent tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. I would say it's probably, we're closing in on the billions at this point of refining their model. DeepSeek there's all kinds of benchmarks for these models, and I don't want to get super geeky with you, but the depth on this is just crazy deep. DeepSeek was able to train their model and get similar results in terms of benchmarks with like almost $1.5 million, and they bought some used graphics processing units off of like a couple garage sales over in China. I mean, it was insane. That's how fast this environment is moving. Some other notable models, Claude 2 would be one that if you have a Google account, I highly, highly recommend. It makes ChatGPT look dumb in some instances. Gemini is wonderful if you have an Android phone because it talks back to you. And if you're driving down the road and you don't want the safety risk of staring at this while you're doing, that whole thing, you hit the talk button, it talks, you talk to it, it talks back to you, and you can have as intelligent of a conversation as you can muster. So here's an example. I went and visited a state attorney last week trying to figure out if getting started with a trust makes sense for me, my wife, and my family. At this juncture, it does not. But at the end of the day, I needed to go get into a room of somebody smart. And I, as a firstborn, have always felt like I'm always the guy that has to figure it out. And so I'm always the one that looks dumb on the start end of it. I've just become used to it at this point. But I wanted to have an intelligent conversation with this attorney. So I needed to know the difference between, like, what is a trust? What are the different names? What's the vocabulary? Basically, what I'm doing with you right now on AI, I didn't want to have to get over the hump and waste 15 minutes of this attorney's time so that she could explain key terms. So I hit the Gemini button and said, hey, would you give me a primer on trusts at a 16-year-old level? And that's going to be one of the tricks we're going to see here in a little bit. And I now know about revocable and non-revocable trusts and grantor and grantees and all this other stuff. And it took me 20 minutes before I got burnt out on that. And then I went back to my audiobook and we went there. But it helped in being able to step through that process. So she was impressed that I took the time, 20 minutes, to at least know key terms. Okay. The other two, Dolly is an image creator. So website example would be one of those pieces where if I just need to create an image and it doesn't exist, this is part of OpenAI's model. There's another one on here for audio. It's called the Whisper model. It is absolutely insane. It should be terrifying banks right now. We're going to talk about security considerations down the road here. The one that I am most revering and that I am most excited about is Ollama, not because of how much it can do, but because of that I get to own it. I get to host it, and it gets to sit inside of my business. Ollama gets to go to work for me, and no one else has access to the data. We're going to talk about that a little bit, okay? But these are the notable models, okay? In that security consideration piece, I just want to kick something to you here really quick. Of those models, now there's two additional icons on this screen. Copilot, that's Microsoft's version or branded version of ChatGPT. Microsoft dumped a boatload of money into OpenAI. OpenAI is still a nonprofit, have had a couple attempts to go for profit. And I probably should have thrown on here the X Grok, basically what Twitter became. They became X. X has its own AI that has been trained off of the communication on Twitter for the last decade. plus more. So, I mean, it's not like it's speaking back to you in broken English. But at the end of the day, the thing that's really interesting here that I want you to consider, where are these models? Where do they live? Where does your data live? Who has access to that data? And probably a less personal way to talk about this, or maybe less has some less strings attached to it. Your doctor, should they would you want them to use AI to help diagnose something that would be wrong with you? And I'll answer the question. I don't actually know that I even want you to answer that, but ultimately what it is I want to have every tool at my disposal to if I have something wrong, I want every tool at my disposal to be used to help figure out the problem and then fix the problem. I don't care what kind of tool it is, as long as it leads to a good outcome, then great. I want to use it, right? What are the potential security ramifications of that, though, is oftentimes something that we don't necessarily consider. So whose computer is processing this data is probably the number one. So that's the difference between hosted and local. Okay. So if it's a paid for product, they're hosting it. If it's a local product, I get to buy the computer and the hardware, the capital outlay expense, if you will, and then it just gets to run indefinitely. As long as I keep it plugged into the wall and pay the utility bill, then it just runs. And now it's working on my behalf 24/7, and no one else has access to that data, as long as I am secure with my network. Okay? So there's three models there. There's the local Copilot, and then there's the one that you actually log into and you pay a subscription for. What we are finding is that the hosted products have much better benchmarks, but again, there's all these security considerations around confidentiality, integrity, and availability. The whole thing. And if you are regulated via HIPAA, if you are regulated via PCI, if you have customer data in the form of PII, you technically can't input anyone else's data that is not your personal own in any of these products and expect to not get your behind sued off if you have a data breach or they have a data breach, because technically you're the data steward. Anyway, so considerations around that. Okay, so if you're using a hosted product, the long and the short of it is sanitize the data. If it's a local product, I can throw anything I want to into it, as long as that box doesn't get hacked, you're golden. And it means a lot less work on the front end of throwing data into it. Okay, so now is where I pause. And I get to breathe a little bit. Questions up until this point, just on key terms and kind of getting the lay of the land. I'm losing you a little bit. I'm going to reel you back in, I promise. Okay.
What does it cost for these?
Starts off at about $15, $20. ChatGPT, Claude. That's kind of the price point that a lot of these are set off at. Yep. So about a $250 bill a year. And it is, if you don't have the ability, the technical acumen to host your own, it's the best $250 you'll spend. It's not even close. It's like, well, I'll just show you what some of the examples are. It's not even close. I couldn't imagine not having it. But you know, my entire business is built around technology. I do have a couple questions down the road that I'm going to throw at you, that might help you think through doing an ROI value on it. But any other key questions on key terms? Okay, we're going to keep rolling here. Okay, I'm going to check one more time. Let's make sure. I just don't want to leave anybody behind here. Boom, 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 boom. Nope. Okay. So this is one of my, oops, come back here. This is one of my absolute favorite websites. And I promise you, I'm not even going to click on the website because we'll rabbit hole and the whole hour will just go. This is the AI job impact from a website, and you can't really see it at the bottom. Let me get out of there. The little thing is in the way, but basically, It's a website called there'sanaiforthat.com. Okay. And on it, there's a cool little page in there that says, here's are the jobs that are going to be most significantly impacted by AI. Okay. At the top of this is going to be anything to do with communications and anything to do with data entry. How many jobs are you currently doing as a business owner or as an employee that involve those two things, communications and data entry? Yeah, right. Those specifically, and if you hover over top of it, they've kind of gone through, listed all of the things that would be, all of the tasks that would be involved in a communications manager's day. All of those tasks could either be entirely replaced or nearly fully replaced by AI. So out of 100 tasks, here's how many of them could be replaced or nearly replaced or augmented significantly enough to be impacted. And then these are those jobs. Now, I want you to keep that in your mind as we're looking through on some of these use case examples. There's some pieces. We've had some big inventions in our day. Indoor plumbing, the invention of penicillin. We've got vaccines. The cell phone was a big one. How about the internet? I would say this is going to dwarf all of them by far. And there is no stopping it. There's not a chance. There's grumbling about it. But this is happening right now before our very eyes. And the only way for us to have any measure of control on it is to understand it and then help put bumper guards on it. So anyway, I really worth looking at. I promise you, you could waste an entire day just looking at this. It's absolutely incredible. Also, it is the #1 index that I use to see, is there an AI that is specifically built for tackling a problem that I have in my brain? And it's like cheating. By the way, if you want these slides, just hit up the feedback piece and all of this. I have most of this linked. So you just click on it and go, okay? Okay, so #1, we've already kind of talked about this a little bit, is refining written communication. I think we could all categorize email as a form of communication, right? And it's probably the #1 most impactful thing. Unfortunately, there's still a little bit of wonkiness around what bodies of knowledge are we going to attach AI in and which bodies of knowledge we're not. And email is one of those things right now where Microsoft hasn't really opened that floodgate yet. They have built in AI into the Outlook product. So it will help you as you're typing along. It'll go, oh, you should probably type the next sentence this way, right? Have we all seen the quick assist or whatever it is, right? So that's really helpful. I'm going to cut out of this here really quick. Let's go to, I think I've got one of these. Got GPT open, right? So let's do something like this. Write me a quick, actually, so you guys can actually see this. Rejection letter for a intern, right? And it just kind of spits it out. It even gives you the subject. It gives you the applicant's name and brackets. There's all kinds of stuff. Notice I didn't give it what type of internship. I didn't give it a job. I didn't give it its name. I didn't provide the context. I didn't tell it my business is an MSP and we deal in technology, right? If I would have told it those details, much more pertinent, and it looks like I labored over this letter for hours. Okay. Now, if we didn't have this, how much time do you think I would spend on something like this? A long time. I would say minimum, I'm going to spend 15 to 20 minutes on that, right? Now, on paper, I'm probably a 25 an hour employee because I don't like paying taxes, right? But at the end of the day, the reality is I have 6 employees underneath me that I will want them to be able to make more money than what I am paying them. right? Otherwise, what's the point of owning the business? And so I need their time to be as efficient as possible. And so we talk about this, if not every other day, almost daily, about how are we using this and why are we not using this? As a business owner, I have to be the one that's driving this conversation, because quite literally, we were humming along here, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, and we are all thinking, okay, what's the next self-help book? And how do I get into a flow space? And how do I, just so we can really cram through work? This is a cheat code. This just turned me from a 25 into a $50 an hour employee, because I can get the same amount done in half the time. And so ultimately, the ROI on the calculation on this is not even close. And two, like for the services and the trades that require a certain amount of documentation, like Southern Plains, like an IT service, where you have to prove what you did, when you did it, and have that documentation kind of line up to a certain spec. All of the additional onboarding and training, and then QC or quality control coming back behind it, boy, there's a lot there. That slows the process down. The higher the expectation of documentation, the slower of the inputting and the slower it takes. So I'm paying for people to just document whatever they were doing in the whole time anyway. That clipboards don't build houses. They do make sure that we have bundles of labor in the right bundles, or we have bundles of resources in the right bundles. But at the end of the day, I need my people both swinging hammers as much of their day, because that's the thing that builds the house the fastest. And then I need their ability to account for their time and their documentation as little as possible. And it needs to match, right? So anyway, written communication is going to be the number one piece here that is going to be able to, and I think we're all using that, right? I mean, we're using the dickens out of it. At least I am. Here's one challenge I would say to you is the harder the conversation, the more valuable this is. So for instance, if I have to write a poor performance letter, a rejection notice, a workplace conflict, or some type of unpopular opinion, even if it's 50-50, whatever, right? Sometimes the way that I write it is more important to the recipient than the actual decision, right? And ultimately, what this does better than anyone else is writing in a manner that's very polished and very acceptable, and still holds honor in the writing. And that's the thing that I love. It makes me sound kinder, and I love that, right? I don't want to burn a relationship if I don't have to. So, okay, so this one's an easy use case number one. I got to keep clipping along here because I got so much stuff, you guys. I way over prepared on this. Okay, next up on the list is social media content generation. Who has so much money in the bank account they just are begging to hire a marketer? Yeah? You too, huh? Okay. So here's the cost of marketing in general is plummeting through the floor, because marketers, this is like the greatest thing since sliced bread for marketers. This is the best tool that they've ever seen come across. This is the tool. Like if you were a ditch digger and then they just invented an excavator, you'd go, oh, thank Jesus, right? This is that for marketers. So let me show you one of the ways that I could use this for marketing. I'm going to use Claude on this one. I tried doing something with Claude. Let's do, my name is Cole Nicholas. I own a small MSP in Winter SD. I need 3 Facebook posts, post caption, just posts, mock-ups or ad copy, based on the topic of, what's a good topic? Oh, you guys, come on. You guys are already asleep. Okay, one question. Topic of AI. Thank you. All right, let's copy this. This is my prompt. Why is this not working? Let's try this one more time. I did copy this, so I'm using Sonnet. Why is this grayed out? What in the blazes? Oh, do I have to kill this? Maybe that's it. Yeah, there it is. So what it's going to do is it's going to do a little bit of thinking. This one's, if you thought GPT was nice, this one is going to, it's so kind when it speaks to you. But ultimately, this is one, and notice how I didn't give it the name of the business. It assumed it was Nicholas MSP, right? But essentially, it's creating about a 50 to 100 word social media post. And also notice that it has the hashtags or keywords for you, right? How much would you have labored on a social media post? Right, for you to do easily, yeah. So here's the beautiful thing. By creating 3, you can go, okay, I like that section. I don't like that section. Oh, that one's good. I like that, right? So you can copy paste, boom, boom, boom. And oftentimes what I will do is I will copy sections of the things that I like out of all 3 of them. I'll copy them into here and I will go, can you refine and splice all 3 of these into one cohesive message? Spit it out, right? I want to mix and match to get exactly what I want. And that took me 30 seconds. Let's move on. Let's go make money. Now, ideally, there's going to be some problems with this because what this is you're creating noise on your Facebook, you're creating noise on your Instagram. And I'm calling it noise because it doesn't actually turn into lead generation until a customer talks back to you. Or at the very least, I could argue both sides of the fence. If somebody hits the like button or you at least stay top of mind, that's also worth something, right? But at the end of the day, to calculate the return on investment of your time, and this is Claude, I didn't pay a nickel for this. This is free, right? This just comes with a Google account. No brainer. And you can do this with GPT, Claude, Gemini, whatever you want. I actually would say GPT does a better job at this because it gives me all the fancy little emojis that work great with mobile. Okay? Questions on any of that? Use away. This is like a no-brainer. No-brainer. And I think I've got another one. I'm closing that one.
That just does text and
Emojis. Yes. Where I'm getting at, thank you. So where we're going to go to next is if you want to create an image. So my wife is a tattoo person, right? And so sometimes she needs some inspiration and we get some wacky requests. I say we like I'm part of it. I want a wolf that morphs into a dandelion that with the feet of a turtle, you know, or something like that. And you're like, are you okay?
yeah.
Right? Have we been smoking some things? But no, ultimately on these requests, and she's a purist, so she won't even use this half the time because she feels like it's cheating, you know. But there's a lot of tattoo artists that this is their savior, which I think is funny. If you're a tattoo artist that doesn't have the creativity to be able to draw this out, then it's kind of a, you're more of an ink applicator than anything else. But at the end of the day, this for us non-creative people to be able to generate images on the fly as if you had a graphic designer in your back pocket, this is where you would go to do that. Okay, so you would log in. Canva, by the way, has more or less GPT and DALL-E on the backside that's just kind of bolted in. And so I kid you not, if I just look at all these graphic media posts, that was a GIF. That was a print screen. That image right there, I brought up Canva, and so you call it Magic Media is what it is. And let's go. I want a yeah.
Well, I was trying to do
Yeah.
just for
Let's try it
I don't know why.
with a graduation cap. Let's just see. Now it's going to give me 4 options, and there's a lot of different things that it'll do. If you don't like the 4, you hit the redo button, right? But there you go. I like that one. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. So let's actually just do that. That's going to be that's going to be use case number 1. Yeah. Yeah. But ultimately, this is, you will notice that Canva is specifically built around images and graphic design and pieces like that. So it's going to like the engineers at Canva are bolting in DALL-E and all these other models into its systems to specifically address this issue. And so you'll find, like, oftentimes we think, well, ChatGPT can do that. Really, ChatGPT is just really meant for like literary refinement. Exactly. Yeah. And hence the name, there's an AI for that, because truly there are AIs that are built for a very specific purpose, and you will get a very refined version out of it that you want. It's just the trick is finding it. You bet. Okay, we'll keep rolling here. Oh my gosh, time is slipping away. This is terrible. I don't even know where I'm at, guys. Okay, we're on use case 3. Oh yeah, this is good. Okay. Oh, we will eventually. If there's good feedback on this and everybody's kind of feeling like this is worth their time, then absolutely. And granted, I've got more slides on this too, so we'll be able to rock and roll. It also does videos, by the way. See the little document, this thing, that little play button? That's not on the internet. Canva generated that. So it can do videos as well. Anyway, okay, document creation. I love this. If you are a half-assed business owner like I am, you love the idea of contracts. You hate the idea of writing them. So usually in the past, I would just go steal a template document off of it, and then I'd do a bunch of research, and then I'd try to add the clauses in that I thought would make sense, and on a purchase agreement or on a service, master service agreement or whatever else, right? And that still applies. But at the end of the day, what we're finding out is the output of a lot of these for document creation in general, it's about as good as a mediocre lawyer. It's about as good as a mediocre doctor, quite honestly. If you can ingest your symptoms and what you've tried up until this point, there's this giant volume of text for like how to diagnose these different symptoms. It's been trained on all of that. It's been trained on all of the tax code. It's been trained on basically the body of knowledge that is the United States Constitution and then all the law. It has all of that. And if it doesn't have it specifically in memory, it now GPT-4o and some other things can go actually search for that information, which is terrifying to me. But so yeah, this is where we're at. Standard operating procedures, anyone? Oh, yeah. Yeah, standard operating procedures, just the thought of it gives me a headache. But if I can do a halfway decent job of just going step 1, do this, step 2, do this, right? I can create a standard operating procedure, have it, refine it, ship it off to my people. I want you to follow this procedure, bar none. Done and done. Right? The amount of time I can spend on doing a standard operating procedure is disgusting. Same thing goes for service agreements, purchase agreements, my renter contract, this. And then once you get done, here's the trick, by the way. You have one model, create it. You download that document, you spit it into another one, you go, hey, questions on this. If I was a renter and my dog chewed up the carpet, how would I get protected with this agreement? That's handy. Okay. So you get to play ChatGPT against Claude, against DeepSeek, against Ollama. And so you just start shopping that document around to all these models, because effectively this is a group of advisors for you. This is an expert that you get to call, and they're not going to charge you money, or at least not a lot of money. Okay. Scope of work, terms of service, standard operating procedure. I'll just do one here quick. Let's do this one. Create a purchase agreement for what are we buying? Fine. Okay. A Chevy 2008 Sierra with 190,000 miles. No warranty. Price is equal to $8,500. I didn't tell it to do it, man. It just did it. Right? I mean, that's worth the time. That's worth the time. It's still going. The grant writing is one of the, remember how hard grant writing was 2 years ago? Yeah. So
Well,
the hardest thing about grant writing is doing the about me piece and then why we need what we're asking for. That's going to be more prompt engineering, but you can do it in short single sentence deals. And then I've got one more thing I'm going to show you for like adding in context. Going to be really snappy. Okay, moving on. Questions on any of this? Are you guys just already like checked out? Should we just hit the pause button, do questions? Okay, all right. I don't want to tsunami you. This is a lot. Yeah, yep. This truly is worth, it's really worth diving into in a big way. The basis or the reason for this is to really just affirm that this is worth the time learning. And it's this primer, this 101, this really is just showing off the fact that this is a piece of technology that I don't know that you get to wait on. Is really all it is. Because I'm a technology guy, I get that all the time. If you're 50 and older, there's a certain amount of technology that you've seen in the past that you've said, don't need that. I'm going to wait on that, right? And about half the time you're right. About 3/4 of the time you're right. The other quarter, you're the laggard on. And so you're the last person entering the room and everybody already kind of knows. And sometimes now your life looks different because now, you know, it seems like you're always playing catch up, right? And oftentimes those are my customers. So I kind of go to war ideologically on that mindset of there used to be some technological advances that we could wait on because the cost of not making a decision didn't hurt you. The cost of not making a decision on this, I think will be the final nail in the coffin, so to speak. Actually, that sounds really morbid. Sorry. Anyway, okay, moving on. Here we go. Present.
yeah.
Mine does for sure. Yeah.
Feels like there's not enough attention or, you know, liking your Facebooks. Hey, that's some easier than.
Yeah. Yep. This one, I'm not going to do a use case on, but this is probably the #1 thing that most Fortune 500 companies and even smaller kind of medium cap companies are going to be utilizing this for is doing chatbots, because we don't want to have to pay for a $20 an hour technical support person in Omaha because they have the best language understanding for Midwest. And we don't even want to pay for somebody in China anymore because those relations are funky. Let's just go ahead and see if AI can replace that entire thing. And in some ways it is happening. You just have to have your standard operating procedures. And if this is broke, then you should check this. And if this is broke, you should check this. All of that has to be in documentation, has to be in a digital format that ChatGPT or the AI model can then go over top of and then use that as the body of knowledge that it uses in the conversations with your customer. We are whittling on this right now for us. Now, the reason why it's important to us is because your ticket history as a business has merit. Like all the things that we've fixed for your business in the past are probably going to show up again, right? There's a biblical thing like underneath that. Like there's nothing new under the sun. It just kind of does this all the time. Same thing happens in businesses for technology issues. Okay. And so these virtual assistants are going to be, I would say it's almost entirely going to replace the lowest third of all technology support company, employees, companies, everything. Like, did you guys see the Jetsons early on? Have we seen the Jetsons? Remember in that space, we thought they pretended like robots were going to replace everything, and we had flying cars and everything else. I think the automation that will make the Jetsons real life won't be robots. It will be AI. And then someday we will put AI into robots and then we'll get there. But for right now, that replacement of employees and people and time and everything else, it's all going to come from here. Okay, so that's another use case for it. This one I'm really big on. I want to be a learn it all. I actually want that etched on the tombstone. Everyone loves a learn it all. Nobody loves a know it all. There's a big difference, right? Okay, so this one is, and I kind of talked about it a little bit. I learned about trusts, right? You can do the exact same thing and you don't have to feel stupid because it's a non-living robot that doesn't even know how to diss anyway. Right? So you can say, explain the concept of this to me like I'm 5 years old, or like I'm 12 years old, or like I'm 18 years old. By the way, it expects a lot out of an 18-year-old. It really does. So I've been lowering my number. It makes me feel bad, honestly. The one that I am working on right now has been really trouble for us, and we're still seeing. Let me see if this is gonna pull up. This is our built-in AI. Oh yeah, okay. So it's still processing. We are working on this to help truly understand at a really fundamental level our general liability policy for insurance. Does anyone just have theirs memorized and known by like the back of their hand? Yeah, me neither. Right? So general liability isn't super complicated in terms of what can go wrong. Like, right? Like fire, tornado, flood, help me out. What else? Earthquake? Wind. There we go. Yeah, we're going to see wind more than likely. Everything else is kind of like an act of God. Sorry, it's not covered, right? But maybe there's some things that's very pertinent to you. Like maybe you're below grade in a section of your property and you might need flood insurance, but it's not going to get covered. So maybe you need a bolt-on piece or whatever else, right? That whole thing is really helpful because insurance sucks. I will stand on a pedestal and say that one. Here's the last one that's really bad is cybersecurity insurance, which is cybersecurity is the last Wild West, I'm convinced of. There is no common vernacular from underwriter to underwriter to underwriter. So one underwriter will call a ransomware event this, and a different underwriter will call a ransomware event this. Two separate names. And then you got to look in the key terms section of the policy to be able to see what they're talking about. There is no commonality across it. And you can't even compare apples to apples, policy to policy. So a lot of people are getting a Hartford bolt-on cybersecurity insurance policy for $600 a year, covers nothing, absolutely nothing. We're working with the cybersecurity insurance guru. His name's Travis Kroger. He works for Fifth Wall over in Sioux Falls. We're going to be rolling on a product that he has, of which his product is back-ended by AI with a tailor-made AI prompt for looking at these insurance policies to see what they will cover, what they don't cover. And then it automatically asks the questions like, what happens in the event of a data breach? What happens in the event of whatever this is, right? And then the AI will answer back based off of the policy. Thank you, Lord, right? Huge.
That is huge.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, yeah, I looked at that.
Yeah.
And,
hmm
you know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Here's the tough thing is most local insurance agents don't know what they're selling. They haven't even read it. That's where, and they're not bad people. It's just, it's such a complicated subject, and I can't expect. I got a master's in cybersecurity. I have a hard time following through it. Anyway, okay, that's my last, final, and fifth use case. We're just going to briefly span. I've got like 2 minutes left. This is bad, guys. I should have. There's so much better stuff in here. I'm so bummed. Okay. Yeah, okay. As long as you promise to come back. There's a couple considerations here that I'm just going to glaze over. In the security world, we call this the CIA triad. It's just a 3-circle Venn diagram. And the 3 circles or areas is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And so the pertinent questions that we should be asking, no matter what tool we're using that is using digital information, is who has access to the data, right? If it's in the confidentiality concern, these are the questions we should be asking. But it's centered around, can this product be integrated for one? Will it even work? Can I MacGyver, bail and wire, and duct tape this thing together so it'll process data? Is it affordable? Can I calculate ROI on it? Last one is, what happens if we do have a security breach, a concern, my vendor gets hacked, but it's my customer's data in the vendor. That's a whole thing, right? Well, technically, you're the steward of that data. It's a whole thing. Anyway, so there's some pieces around this that we need to consider. That's why I am a huge fan of hosting your own AI. We do that, costs us about $1,500 in computer parts. And so everything that we've been using not everything, but all of this stuff on the left-hand side, this is just running on software. It doesn't cost me a nickel in licensing. It's called Ollama is the model. And the thing that I interact with it on is called Open Web UI. Doesn't cost me a nickel. It feels like cheating, but it's basically given me at least a 30% employee that I would have had to purchase as a personal assistant. It just made me that much. It gave me support and structure where I needed it the most, which was organization and was communication. That's all it was. Okay, so that's this product. Safer, simply because all of the data resides inside of your owned network. And I use that pointedly. You own your network, or at least, you own the building, you own the data, you are the steward of that data, and that sensitive data needs to stay in that network. And we don't necessarily want to even bother with trying to create a very separate, safe container in someone else's home, and then ensure that that data over there is safe and here, right? And then how do we transmit the data back and forth? It's a whole thing, right? Okay, so I think, let me just double check here, see where we're at. I got so much more stuff, but it's a bummer. Okay, yeah, here's an analogy, right? Indoor plumbing, telephone, penicillin, vaccine, cell phone, internet. All of those things had detractors, distrust, suspicion, and wariness right at the start, right? Especially the vaccines. I can't really be sure on that one after the whole COVID debacle, right? But at the end of the day, proponents and opponents of that, okay? I don't think anyone can say that that list of things wasn't a huge leap forward for tools and for time and for output and product. And that's really all I'm looking at AI on. I'm not looking on through a lens of morality. I'm not looking through a lens of anything else. That's for us to think about on a Sunday when we don't have to make money in a bad economy, right? Okay. There is also this thing called cognitive discounting. It's basically discounting the future with the preference of the short term. And a lot of interesting study on that. I would highly recommend a search on Wikipedia on that one. And I'm going to call it there. I actually have like 4 or 5 more slides, but we're calling it. Okay. Give me, what do we got on that? Was this worth your time? Okay. I wanted to be super applicable. I wanted this to be something that was gonna, we don't trust what we don't know. And so as soon as we can start to know what a thing is, now it increases the level of trust, or more or less just decreases the level of distrust. Maybe that's probably a better way to say it, right? So ultimately, that's what I was trying to do here is I just wanted to bring this to you because I think it's going to be the most impactful thing, not only for your business, for my business, but honestly, I think this will be the one thing that actually pulls our economy and gets our GDP pushing in the right direction. But it's going to be its implementation and integration. My worry is that the 3 or 4 big companies that control the majority of this research and the majority of traction on this are going to stronghold it and just use it as a way to generate revenue for themselves only. And they will have an AI to fight on their behalf, and we will not have an AI to fight on our behalf. Also, what will happen is communication is going to completely change. The amount of noise that's already in social media, the echo chamber that is just, that's only going to get worse. No, no. And it drives folks that are worried about that nuts. That's still,
Create a document.
Yeah.
We can use that about citing ChatGPT.
right now, no. To my knowledge, no. This is currently being reviewed in the courts right now and is a huge gray area because it was trained on copyrighted information. But at the same time, if it's internet accessible, it's in the public domain. Like you don't get to have your pie and eat it too. You don't get to show off, here's this cool thing connected to the internet and have someone not copy it, or at least create something that looks within 80% close to it. Now the Fortune 500 companies have money to blow on lawyers, so they are figuring this out in the courts. But I'm not worrying about it at all, because quite honestly, even if the courts came down on the side of, like for instance, I think we saw a version of this already in the music industry, where there's some drama on T Swift is a great example. Taylor Swift had her entire discography bought by this jackass. I can't remember. Does anybody know the story? I don't know his name. Basically, he bought the whole thing and has just held her under his finger for forever. And instead of trying to generate the money to buy back that discography, she went ahead and just simply re-recorded the songs. And he went to court and said, you don't get to do that. This is copyrighted. Well, she added an extra flute and one more drummer, and it was just enough different. So at the end of the day, I don't think there's going to be an issue regardless. When there are gazillions of dollars that are high profile on the line and you can still do that, making an internal standard operating procedure document or something to that effect, no one's going to care. There's no money riding on it and there's no publicity to gain. That's my 2 cents on it. But all right, thank you so much for coming. Just a reminder, if you do end up, here's our QR code feedback. If you would let me know if this was worth your time, not worth your time. And it's just like a 8-question, 9-question. It's like name, email, phone, password. Just kidding on your password. 10. There you go. Yeah. So you can rate whether this was worth your time. And then if you want that, just check that box. I'll send you the slides. You can go through it, and then we'll rock and roll. I promise I'm going to leave more time for questions and conversation at the end. Golly. Yeah.
Probably took them 30 seconds to come.
That's how they did it. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it'll probably have to be another month out or whatever. We'll just kick this link out. And then that, basically we can, whatever day works for you, honestly, is the biggest thing. And then if it's a month out, I'll be good to go. Cause we don't really start scheduling hard until about 2 weeks out. You bet. See, I better shut this thing off. There we go. Let's do that.